Good morning, guys. Happy, is it good morning? Good morning, good afternoon. A little bit of a late upload, but it is Friday, the 29th of May. I hope everyone is doing amazing. I hope you've all had an amazing week as well. Let's jump straight into this daily market outlook. But before we do, understand that the content on these videos inside my Discord and on this YouTube is for educational and informational purposes only. I am not a financial advisor, and nothing shared in my videos should be considered financial investment or trading advice. Understand that trading and investing involves risk, and you should always conduct your own research before making any financial decisions. Any past performances discussed by myself does not guarantee future results. You are responsible for your own financial decisions. So let's jump into the charts. We have had some volume. I obviously had a day off yesterday due to it being my birthday, so wasn't on the charts, wasn't on the phone at all. So I will be catching up with um, any messages today. And yeah, man, obviously I will get back to everyone as fast as I can, but please be patient with my messaging as well. But yeah, going into today, obviously yesterday we had Red Folder News, which as you can see, 2:30. The forecast was 3.6, sorry, 2.1. And yeah, the forecast was 2.1, previous was 0.7, so much greater. So obviously, news brought volume into the charts. And then today we've got Great British Pound news, or had Great British Pound news, and we have Canadian dollar news as well. So, without that being said, let's jump into the charts and see what is going on. Now, US dollar has been an absolute pain in the ass, just being real. I'm pretty sure you guys can see as well. And it's just been consolidating. It's been horrendous. Like we've been talking now for quite some time about, can we see a break above these highs or can we see some sort of break below, obviously the lows. Now obviously we did get from Monday, yeah, Monday we did get a break of these lows here. And then we've just pushed straight back into there and obviously still messing about sideways. So it is extremely consolidating. You can obviously identify it a little bit more as well if you look at the daily time frame. It is fucking disgusting. My language. It is literally just been 10 days of just consolidation. So yeah, some hard conditions, obviously participating when the markets are not moving as smoothly. And obviously just consolidating, going sideways, fading to break above, fading to break down. But it is what it is. We obviously analyze and we look for what could potentially happen. Now, of course, if you look at, going into this week, we've had these bullishness, and then going into Thursday, we had obviously this market just dump away. So that has been pretty much what the market has, done yesterday whilst I've been away. Now, of course, because we broke above this area, understand that, even though we're not broken above these highs, this is still a market range from this low to this high, officially when we broke above this high. Because as you guys remember, we were looking at shorting from the supply areas here. Market obviously came up above, which told us we obviously have another break of structure. Now, as you can see, market has obviously dipped and it's dipped below the 50%, below the 618, and around the 786. So sorry guys, my phone is going nuts. So obviously we're in obviously that discounted area. We've had some bulls away. Now we've had some bulls away. Now looking at this condition here, is it something that is the cleanest? No, it's not from a 4 hour. If we look at the daily, not really as well. But if we go back to the four, the one thing that I obviously identified, if the market was going to come any low, would be around this area here as a demand. Now, of course, that could still happen, but market is obviously reacting from here at this moment. Now, I do think we have a lower time frame reaction, meaning like a 30-minute, 15-minute, because we reacted from this demand area here, which has already been mitigated. If you look, this demand area already got mitigated by this, and obviously market is still in and around there. So what I just did is just had a quick look at, if we've left anything in that demand. And as you can see, we left it imbalanced, but It's not like it's a significant 4 hour, 1 hour imbalance, but of course that's where market conditions, market currently is, and that's what's happened. A 30-minute, 50-minute demand filled that in, and then obviously slowly moved away. So yeah, not the cleanest to be completely honest with you. But looking at what scenario could happen right at this moment in time is, well, because we're consolidating and because we're basically trapped between supply and demand, and we're failing to break the highs, failing to break the lows, and it seems like market really doesn't know what to do. What we can obviously identify is what could potentially happen both ways. Now, first thing that has caught my eye is the fact that we're inside of this 1 hour supply. We're inside of this 1 hour supply here. But if you look at the internal, you can see that the internal is bullish. Internal is bullish here. You can see that market went from this will be a 50-minute lower high, lower low, pull back, lower low, lower high, failed to go and create a new lower low, and then we had this breakout, higher high, higher low, higher high. So at this moment in time, I'm going to be keeping my eye on seeing in market what market does from this area of demand, this one area of demand. Now, of course, that's where if we go into the lower time frames, for instance, and you see a possibility to participate in shorts on the dollar, I would just be aware of, obviously this 1 hour demand area. Now, again, if market, comes down and breaks this low, then again, I think this supply will obviously be what's in control, and then we can potentially look for them, shorts with the dollar. But of course, ideally, what I would like to see is market come in, fill in this imbalance, take out any early inducement, early buyers, um, carry this trend on, and then we can make another reaction or another decision, should I say, from this area of demand here. We can make another decision from this area of supply, not demand, sorry. That's ideally what I'd like to see. Just carry this internal on, and then obviously make a decision from here. So that is what I am keeping my eye on because we obviously have this supply area, we have the top of the supply area here, and obviously this. Now, for me, if we're going to carry on bullish, and you can see that obviously we break above, this and we break again above this, you could obviously catch some beautiful trades in there. Whilst obviously just keeping your eye out on these supply areas. And if we do get that change of trend, then obviously that's when you'll know that you can obviously then look for the shorts on the dollar. Um, but yeah, hopefully that makes sense to you guys. But for right now, you don't need to worry about these two because we're not there right now. Let's focus on this 1 hour supply and this 1 hour demand area and see what happens. Remember, even though the 1 hour we're in this 1 hour supply, understand that the internal is bullish. So understand that. Now your USD. Now your USD, we can pretty much see that it is the same scenario as the dollar. It is one ugly mother F. Just literal sideways moving. Markets obviously not give us any indication at this moment in time that we're breaking above and breaking down. It's just been wicking, as you can see above, we wick, and then we come back down, we wick the lows, and then we go back up. It is just consistently, going sideways, being stuck inside of this box, exactly the same as the dollar. So looking at this scenario right now, from a 4 hour, we obviously have this 4 hour demand area below. So this is a 4 hour demand area that we can keep our eye on. Of course, if the dollar, goes a little bit higher, then that should meet us going a little bit lower in this demand. And we do have imbalance below here. So I'm just going to keep my eye on that. If we jump down to the 1 hour, and we have a look at what's going on, we can pretty much see that market has taken out this low. And we are obviously bearish from this scenario right now. You can see that market has gone from, we have obviously higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. Market then failed to go and create a new higher high, break, lower high, lower low. So internal is bearish. And as we can see at this moment in time, market has reached back into this area of 1 hour supply, which is pretty ugly. If we jump down to the 30 or the 15 minute, you can start to refine this. That's the 30-minute supply area there. Yeah, so it's more so from this 30-minute supply. We do also have this 15-minute area here where the imbalance started, so we could still push it into that to fill in that imbalance. Now, this does align with obviously the fact that if the dollar goes bullish now, EU would carry on shorting now. But for me personally, for the dollar, if I want to see obviously this demand area met, because if we get this demand area, that means that we could potentially get a bit of a deeper retracement into, like this 15-minute supply area here rather than the 30-minute. Um, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. Let's just make this a different color. Let's make this whatever color we can that way. So hopefully that makes sense. But internal, as I mentioned, is bearish. If we go to the 1 hour, we obviously have this 4 hour here. So yeah, we can obviously make a decision when we get a little bit lower. But just focusing on that right now, again, Euro USD is an absolute ball bag. Just to be honest with you, the way that it has been moving, whereas GBP USD looks a lot more nicer. Just being honest with you guys, because we're reacting from this 4 hour supply. You guys should know from the daily market outlooks and the lives, we obviously have been bullish, and then we've had this demand area fail to go and break any internal structure and then just carry on dumping away. So markets retraced into a supply area and we're still shorting from here. So if you look at this, there's no real clear 4 hour supply area because, or not like there's no clear, but everything's been, clean and mitigated because it's not left any imbalance. So it is more of a 1 hour supply that we have reacted from, and I can show you what that supply area is. Um, you can see we have the imbalance above that, above these highs. This was unmitigated, didn't get touched. Markets come in, slowed down, failed to go and create a new high, and then we've had this reaction away. So, for me personally, this could be an ideal setup for shorts. Ideally from, this 1 hour supply area here. Now again, would that align potentially with the longs from this demand? Possibly, if we could obviously get the reaction from here. Um, Dollar could obviously react from this demand. So, that does align with the internal being bullish on your US dollar at the moment. Obviously, internal being bearish on GBP USD at the moment. Now, of course, we are obviously reacting from, a demand area here as well. If we jump down to the 30 and 15 minute, you can, obviously refine that if needs be to a smaller zone. Not really, you could probably just stay with that one. Yeah, and obviously that's where market is slowly reacting from. So for me personally, the internal is bearish. The change of trend from this internal being bullish to bearish favors my shorts from here. So it just depends what the dollar's going to do. Is the dollar going to carry on with the supply and break this low, or is the dollar going to obviously carry on bullish and that should align with the shorts on hopefully Euro USD and GBP USD. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. But as you can see, bearish, bullish. Hopefully now this is the next. Again, the way that the market's been moving, it might not be, but hopefully now this is the next expansion stage to go and break this low potentially. Potentially. NZUSD has a mind of its own. Mind my language, but this bitch is just like, you do what you want, I'll do what I want. It is also apparently been saying fuck AUD USD because it's not been doing what AUD USD usually does, and obviously they correlate quite well. So, for me personally, this has just been absolutely trending like crazy. If I look at the daily time frame just for 1 second, you can see that market obviously broke this low. We're in this supply. We can obviously refine that supply now to, oh, one sec, these areas where we consolidated the last buy up candle before the market moved down. But yeah, now we're just getting absolute bullish momentum into the charts. So, could this be the next move just to carry on upwards, potentially? That obviously could definitely happen. Now, looking at the four, by the way, NU has not been one of my favorite pairs this week. I think I said it yesterday as well. But looking at this scenario, I was waiting for a market to dip into these areas, filling this imbalance. It didn't. It just dipped into, here and obviously had massive market momentum. So in order for me to participate in this, I even looked at the 1 hour before, and for me, I just can't see anything. Like this is not even pulled back into this bullishness. We've not even pulled back into this bullish. We're not even pulled back into. It's just been literally go, go, go. More of probably a 30-minute, 15-minute chart. So I'm not interested in NZ USD. I think GU is definitely a better setup, and AUD, which I'll talk about now, is a better setup as well. So even though it is still consolidating, which is annoying. But again, this is just market conditions, and we've got to play um, the conditions that we have. But if you look at the daily time frame, it's been pretty much. It's annoying because we had quite a bad. No, it wasn't bad because it's market conditions, but we had obviously like this scenario where market would just failings a bit the lows and failings a bit the highs and so on and so on. And then we started to get this movement in, and it just seems like we fell back into that sideways movement. Like this consolidation is worse than pretty much this. And we've been like that now for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days of just market consolidation. So, it is pretty annoying, but it is what it is. If we jump down to the 4 hour, what can we potentially see? So what we can potentially see is obviously we had the reaction from this 4 hour demand. We had the 4 hour shorting, lower high, lower low. Market obviously coming to the supply, failed to go and break. Let me just draw this out so you can see. We have lower high, lower low, tapped into this demand, but internal 4 hour still bearish. Then we come back into the supply, failed to go and break a new lower low, tapped into demand, come back up, failed to go and break a new high, then back down. Then we got this bullishness. It was like, okay, potentially this now could be where market carries on because we broke these highs. So we would have obviously seen the market come into this demand. It slowed down and then just dumped off again and then back up to here. So, it is fucking ugly. Just being honest with you. We are in this 4 hour supply at this moment in time. We are in this 4 hour supply. So even though it's sideways, what is the 1 hour telling us? Well, the 1 hour is telling us at this moment in time, you can obviously refine and see we had this 1 hour demand area, which supply area, which we have tapped. Um, bear with me for 1 sec. So we can obviously see that market is bullish. AUD USD is internal bearish here. We are in that supply area as I mentioned, and obviously demand is what we're in with obviously this area, but dollar is in this supply, and that does align with AUD USD. So remember, if we're looking at the dollar and we're thinking if we're going to carry on bullish, then obviously we can carry on bearish, of course. But if we do carry on bearish from the supply with the dollar, then can I see anything pretty much from AUD USD? Not necessarily on the 1 hour, but we'll discuss that anyway. So we are shorting slightly more of a 15-minute trend here. Um, as you can see, but nothing clear for me to participate in right now. What I'm waiting for with AUD USD, what would be nice, and what I was hoping for is if we got like a nice institutional candle, that cleared the breaks, like we get a nice, and then we can then look for like that fresh, 1 hour supply area that we could potentially short from. At this moment in time, it's just not giving me that candle I am searching for. If I jump into the lower time frames, in fact, let's look at the 15. One thing I can obviously notice is we are in this 15-minute supply area, but we already mitigated this. We already came down, mitigated it, failed to go and create a new high, and then just carried it internal bearish. So for me, it's not a strong enough demand area to even like consider at this moment in time. So AUD USD even with this volume right now, we're getting a lot of bullish volume coming in. And I get that we're obviously bearish, but where is this bullish volume, looking to come back into? So for me personally, in this area, from a 30-minute, 50-minute, there's not much I can see. From a 1 hour, there's not much I can see as well. The only thing that I might potentially keep an eye on, because there's not much going on here and volume does come in with AUD USD, depending where the dollar's at, if the dollar's coming into this demand, let's then make a decision where AUD USD, because AUD USD might even be up here then, because we have that lower time frame, for instance, 30-minute and 50-minute supply. So what AUD could potentially do, again, we're predicting the future here and we're trying to understand what market could potentially do. Obviously, we're nowhere near there, but if I can't see anything here right now, all I can see is I'm looking at this and thinking this is money, this is liquidity, this is something in which market could just if we carry on shorting, of course, potentially pump up above, fill in the rest of that imbalance, take out any early sellers, this supply, mitigate it, and then potentially get that move away. Um, and that would probably be my favorable area just because in here, I can't see nothing that I would personally look to take. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. USD CAD, let's see what she is doing. So we finally reached into that supply area. We had this supply, and then we obviously had this supply area below. This one was more at the extreme, meaning it's obviously more premium because it is at the top rather than this. Because if we would have reacted from this, we still left some imbalance. And as you guys know, market loves to come back to rebalance itself. Now, scenarios, you can see we had this demand, which we just absolutely melted away from. So I'm just going to clean up these charts very quickly and just get rid of all of this noise and see what is going on. So from this supply, market's dumped away, and for me personally, we've officially broken all of these lows here. Officially broken all of these lows. Now, does that mean that we could carry on shorting? Well, potentially. But where would we look for shorts from? So personally, where I'd look for shorts from would be, up into this 4 hour supply area here. Again, does that align with the dollar? Well, not necessarily, unless market on USD CAD just get some momentum. But that is my favorable, let's move this now, my favorable area for supplies, 4 hour shorts. Now, looking at the 1 hour, we can pretty much see where is market reactive from at this moment in time. If you look to the left, all I can see is we have an unmitigated supply area here with imbalance. Um, and that's where market has now had that bullishness away from. You can see we have obviously one down here, but before there's no other ones. This was obviously unmitigated. This got mitigated, so everything else was pretty clean. So that's where markets come back into now with this bullishness. So ideally, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with USD CAD because if the dollar is going to carry on bullish, then obviously we need to prioritize USD CAD potentially carrying on bullish as well. The 1 hour is very corrective. If I just look at the 2 hour, the area that I probably favor would be maybe this area here as a 2 hour/1 hour demand. If I now just quickly look, you can see that you can obviously refine that to a 1 hour demand area here. So yeah, I'm gonna put it onto these two candles. But everything below that you can see is already been mitigated. This Asian give us obviously in London entry model 2 and obviously moved away. So the next scenario would be if USD CAD carries on. I'd want to see it carry on from here. Am I interested in shorting at all? Personally, no, I'm not. I'm not interested in shorting because we're not in, for me, a valid supply area to short from, whereas US dollar is in a valid supply area to short from. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. We do obviously have this 1 hour supply area here, by the way, which we can keep an eye on, and then we have this one that is at the above the premium. So let's see what happens, but it's all down to, for me, it's all down to what the dollar does. If the dollar goes on bullish here, then we can obviously see where is market conditions at in regards to USD CAD. If we don't get a full pullback, for instance, and market, fails to come and give us a full pullback, but then we get a big move up and it matches with a dollar, then we can obviously look to participate in the next demand area. USD CHF, let's have a look at what USD Swiss franc is doing. Let's just clean these up now. Okay, so USD CHF, what is going on? Well, we can see from this supply, we've obviously had yesterday crazy reaction from the supply, unmitigated imbalance below. That is obviously at the premium, the top of the supply, which was unmitigated, which is a beautiful, beautiful supply area. And as you can see, obviously, the market is dumped away. So we are dumping away again. We've got 1 hour, 20 minutes away from this zone. Now, where could market potentially could be coming into first and foremost? Well, we have obviously this demand area below. So it's going to be interesting because if market carries on shorting, what we can do with USD CHF is let's see how this candle closes. If this candle closes as it is, engulfed with big body and obviously not a lot of wick, then that could be our next 4 hour supply area here. But this has 1 hour 20 left on this candle, so it's very important that this candle finishes as it does. Then, depending on what the dollar does, if the dollar's shorting, this will be our next area to short from. Now, of course, vice versa would be if the dollar gets into this demand area, or of course, even this demand area, depending where USD CHF is, let's say we get into this, then we can obviously make a decision to see if market is obviously going to long. But understand that at this moment in time, we've had internal would have been shorts, left, lower high, lower low. At this moment in time, we're creating a new lower high. So even if we participate in longs in there, this is what I call an issue area, which makes you can obviously hedge the market. That would be one scenario where you can obviously buy and sell, or you can obviously just wait for the confirmation on this demand area. For instance, if we break above that, then you can look for that longs. So obviously that is down to you guys to look for what you can obviously see when the market presents itself with opportunities or no opportunities. But hopefully that makes sense for USD CHF. It has been extension, correction, not really that extension, but we've had a bit of correction, extension. So can we see that big, big dump off? USD Japanese yen. I'm not even going to talk about USD Japanese yen at this moment in time. Obviously, it's more of a one out. If like, fuck it, let's do it then. Internal's obviously been extremely, extremely trendy here. We have reached that daily supply, of course, but we haven't reached this 4 hour supply. Now, looking at the 4 hour, if we just zoom in, let's remove all of this noise just for 1 second so we can focus. There's not much that we're reacting from right now. For me personally, if we're going to react from somewhere, I'd like it to be this demand area, this 4 hour demand. One thing I can obviously notice straight away is that we have a supply, probably a 1 hour supply area. Yeah, you can see. And that's where market has reacted from so far. So we have that 1 hour supply. And you can see that internal has gone from bullish to bearish. We did mitigate this here. Let me just have a look at the 30 and the 15 and see if we can refine that. Yeah, ish. Okay. Let me just have a look at the 1 hour. So as of right now, obviously the internal is bearish here, which is a bit annoying because dollar is in this scenario bullish. So let me just have a look at what's going on quickly. So for me personally, with USD Japanese yen, we're obviously shorting away from here, which would mean that this 1 hour supply candle is doing its job. Jesus, that is ugly. That is ugly. Um, yeah, I'm not too sure with USD Japanese, and I'm not even gonna lie, because we're in this supply, there's nothing clear as right now. I want to see this low broke, if I'm honest. I want to see these lows broke. Look, I'm not gonna obviously cover USD Japanese yen because I'm not gonna trade it. Um, just being completely honest with you, so I don't see the point in me talking about it. If you guys obviously want to talk about it, want to trade it, you guys can. But from my experience, I just don't want to talk about something that I am not confident about with USD Japanese yen when I think there's better looking scenarios out there to potentially, look for. Definitely. But yeah, hopefully that is clear for you guys with this day of the market outlook. I appreciate you guys as always tuning in, and we will catch up inside of the Discord. Take care and God bless.